back with another episode of the PCC Multiverse right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassman. Thanks so much again for joining us. Truly appreciate you doing so. But it wouldn't be a PCC Multiverse without a good friend indeed. It is the guy, my co-host, my truly inspiration in my life. And that is a good man indeed. He is coming out of us around the Windy City area, and it's great to have him back. It is the great one himself, Mr. T.J. Johnson. What's up, my friend?
What's up, man? Just flying in from the Windy City, and boy, are my arms tired. Let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
No, no, okay,
Well, it
all
should
right.
be lightened up with all the money that Xbox wants from you. That's for
Ay,
sure.
Dios mijo. Yeah, my arms are tired. My pockets are lighter. This is nuts, man. What a time. Consoles are more expensive, and they still want more. We're paying
Mm-hmm.
more for consoles. My consoles appreciate in the value, and yet I'm still looking to pay top dollar for more entertainment that I did not ask for. It's funny how that happens.
Absolutely. You wanted to go ahead and mention something on the air. I think that
Yeah,
you wanted to go ahead and start off with that.
yeah, I did. Well, first, Joe, as always, man, thank you so much for allowing me a platform and allowing me to be on the Pop Culture Cosmos. And I wanted to say thank you for allowing me to have a little bit of time. I had a few things going on personally. Some deaths in the family, multiple deaths in the family, unfortunately, and
My
some other
condolences to you and your
things.
family.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, and just other things at home and lifing, and needed to get some things in order and get some things right and kind of right this ship a little bit. And while I don't know if it's ever going to be right, um, in a much better place now. So I want to tell you personally, thank you for reaching out and checking up on me, keeping up with me, and not letting me get too far into the weeds. And the Pop Culture Cosmos for allowing me a little bit of time to breathe. But I'm grateful to be back, and I'm grateful to start talking some Pop Culture Cosmos with you.
Are you sure? Because the stuff I've been sending you has been pretty depressing.
Well, there are some positive things that are going on in the world of pop culture. I mean, Marvel Zombies was a hit. Already greenlit a season two. We'll see how that plays out. But there's some positivity coming along here. I didn't say it
Maybe
was a
they could.
lot, but
Well, maybe they
something.
can spend that season explaining what the hell happened at the ending. About that's all I'll say because it was.
That fourth episode was a little special, but yeah, I'd be interested to see how next season kind of ties into that.
I'm glad you liked it more than I did. I thought it
I
was
did.
mystic. There were some, okay, there are some plot holes. Okay, if you were equating plot holes to a road, that road would have just like trash the underneath of your car because it did. There were some real bad storytelling gaps in Marvel Zombies. I wanted to like the opening of the second episode because I know everybody trashes the Marvel animation itself, that Marvel
Hmm.
animation style. That
Hmm.
nobody's been able to really defend it, and I can say, well,
Yeah.
I will tell you, the best it ever looked was the beginning of that second episode. Like emanating from San Francisco, the Shang-Chi, right
Hmm.
there. Yeah,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
that was probably the best I've ever seen their animation style and how fluid it could be and how good it could look for them. So I was happy about that, and I was still invested, throughout, despite the plot holes. But yeah, Marvel Zombies was. I just wish it had been something more. And that ending, that very just like WTF ending. I don't know. I honestly don't know and don't understand exactly everything that went on in that ending. It just leaves you confused. It doesn't leave you, at least you bewildered, for lack of a better term.
I think that it was kind of meant to be a WTF moment. It was kind of meant to be one of those things that kind of have you scratch your head and start to question what's real, what's not. How many realities are we dealing with here? What exactly did Wanda do once? once Kamala and her, linked up, and like how did that actually transpire? So I enjoyed it personally. I don't really see anything too wrong with it. I like the fact that it questions you, and I really like the fact that it really sets Wanda Maximoff up to be something huge, especially going into Doomsday, going into the next Avengers films. That I really do feel like she's going to play a major, major, major part. And especially with how quiet Elizabeth Olsen has been, especially with her turning around and saying that she doesn't even remember recording the lines for
I
Marvel
thought, yeah, I thought
Zombies.
that
And
was
I'm like,
funny.
come on, stop it, stop. Like let's not. Like you're an actor, you have an NDA. Okay, we get it. Just say that. Let's just say we're enjoying the ride. But
Maybe she was
don't.
telling the truth.
I mean, I guess there very well could have been. This is almost no different than the Gwyneth Paltrow.
Do
I
you
didn't know I
remember what she
recorded.
did four
Yeah.
years ago?
I remember what I did 4 years ago? I do. But at the same token, um, but at the same
October the
token,
second.
not
Yeah,
October
October.
2nd. No, 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 not on this exact day 4 years ago.
Remember,
No, I don't remember
that
that.
is her October 2nd. That is her just a normal day at the office for her.
Well,
Remember?
I guess this is rich people problems, right? Because I rich people problems right there. I don't remember what I recorded. That was 4 years ago. How am I supposed to know that? But in all seriousness, I'm excited to see what they're doing with her character and how they bring all these strokes together. And if they are, maybe Marvel Zombies is going to be something that kind of stands off, and kind of doesn't necessarily tie into the multiverse. But because it's a multiverse, I feel like you can tie into the multiverse. And there's a lot of things that they could do with this. So I feel like the door is wide open for them to make something really fun out of this. I'm looking forward to the next season. Of course, there are going to be, things that we wish were handled better. I really hate that Kate Bishop and Riri Williams were kind of not written out from the very beginning, but Kate Bishop was just immediately evaporated. Like that was that was the
And
quickest.
they played
That was
such a big part, then all of a sudden, whew, they're
yeah, to
gone.
be gone like that. But I mean, I think that kind of also speaks to how serious this is. I thought what they did with Blade and Moon Knight, combining them together, was crazy, crazy good. And just I don't understand why he hasn't gotten a Blade movie yet. But at the
It
same
wasn't even
token,
Mahershala Ali though voicing the character
no. But
too.
it was
That's
supposed to
that's
be
the
it was supposed to be his
yeah
his
likeness and
likeness, I guess, right? It
yeah.
wasn't him that voiced the character, but it was his likeness. And it makes me want to have that Blade film. But at the same token, knowing that again, he might be aged out. Like at this point in the game, I almost feel like he's aged out and you have to go with somebody younger. Not that he can't still have a part in that movie. I feel terrible that he was written as the main character, but I felt this way when he was first announced as Blade. I'm like, he's a little old to be doing it, but okay, we'll roll with it. But now that we're, 7 years removed from that, 5 years removed from that, whatever, he's definitely, as far as I'm concerned, aged out of that role and he
Yeah,
needs to be
he's
looking at
over.
doing
He's
something else.
51. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
51. So
And that's not
yeah,
to call him
I
old. That's
really
not what I
wanted him to be the
mean.
Blade as well. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not what I mean. It's not to call him old per se, but to be doing a physical character like Blade, it just doesn't
just be
seem to.
starting a physical
Yeah,
character. Yeah, I mean, if
yeah.
it was already like 2, 3 movies in, then that's a
Then it's a
different
different
story.
story,
Yeah,
right? So,
but I just why is Miss Marvel so important to this whole entire thing? I don't that they never really explained that why
mhm,
or what power she possesses that or the bracelets. Why are her bracelets more valuable than Shang Chi's bracelets? I don't I don't get it as far as the why the
yeah,
whole thing. It wasn't very good at explaining things. The show just did not. It was just like, okay, let's put you in one scene to another
hmm,
scene to
hmm,
another scene to another scene. And now some of those scenes were very enjoyable. I will give you that. But if you're trying to look for connectivity, you weren't going to get it. And okay, Ironheart, okay, what I thought, she was gone, then she comes back for a brief bit at the very end, but is it real? Is it not real? How is she still alive? It doesn't explain much of anything. I know that
hmm.
she tried to give herself, an injection in episode 1. We don't even know if that worked because in episode 4 you see that she doesn't even have any sign of it. I don't know.
Well, it's hard to
Uh,
tell in episode 4
yeah,
because there were so many flashes, right? One,
yeah,
two, it looked like she had a Mega Man style rock, cannon attached to her arm. So it
yeah.
very well could have worked the same way in episode 2 that Shang-Chi had one of the rings put on his arm almost like a tourniquet to keep the infection from
Yeah.
spreading. And then at the first episode,
We
you
use
didn't
the
see
rings
Ruru.
as a tourniquet, like you
Yeah,
said. Yeah.
yeah. But at the end of in the first episode, as Riri is infected and she gives herself that injection, we don't see her die. And what I can say is that with Marvel Zombies particularly, the last way you see them, like it's not just a one-off and forgotten about. Like they come back. So even if you go back to, because before I watched the Marvel Zombies, I watched the What If episode of Marvel Zombies. So even going back to watch that and how Steve Rogers was sliced in two, or Zombie Cap was sliced in two by the Shield through Bucky. So when you see Zombie Cap now in Marvel Zombies, he's only the top half. It's not his bottom half as well, because again, they they might have plot threads that we don't, or plot holes that we don't know about, but they're not plot holes that ultimately don't get filled. And it doesn't mean that it's going to all be filled in season one. There may be plot holes that are filled in season two, but
Yeah.
they ultimately seem to fill those plot holes. They don't seem to just leave them completely out there to be left there forever. So I'm interested to see how that does play out, because even like I said, the episode of What If Marvel Zombies, all that stuff tied into this season of Marvel Zombies.
Well, that's what I would I'll have to say, is because if Marvel Zombies season 2 comes out and it spends half the time trying to fill the potholes of season 1, then it's got a tall task indeed, because there's a lot of potholes in season 1 for Marvel Zombies. But again, it was different. I'll give it that. I like their bold moves and bold choices that they made as far as the characters are concerned. But we'll see what happens with another Marvel Zombies, indeed, as far as season 2 is concerned. So looking forward to it. What are your thoughts out there on Marvel Zombies? Please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But my friend, there's much to discuss. Not so good here in the world of video games. I know that everybody is in an uproar right now because Xbox, I can no longer say it's the best value in gaming. Xbox has totally ruined my confidence in them. I've been pretty depressed when it comes to what's going on with what they're doing and the choices that they've made. They can say tariffs and things all they want and other stuff like that, but it's just gone beyond that. The price hikes that they've had on their consoles, which they've done twice this year. They've also reintroduced the price of the handhelds at a staggering $1,000, pricing it way beyond what I want to spend. And I was a buyer. I was an interested buyer, and $600 for the entry level, which I will not buy as an entry level for $600. And now the worst of all is the best deal in gaming is no longer the best deal in gaming, as the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate goes up 50% in price to $29.99. Although, if you go to GameStop and you go to other retailers, Amazon, Best Buy, while supplies last, they are still selling them at $19.99 a month. But it's and on top of everything else, TJ, on top of
Mm,
everything else, I've told you before how I get my Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is through my Bing points, right?
mm-hmm,
Well,
mm-hmm.
they gave me a little disclaimer on the 30th of September saying that as of the 1st, I will no longer be able to spend my points directly on Game Pass. I now have to buy and purchase an Xbox game card in order to buy Xbox Games Pass. So
Mm.
basically, yes, they're including one more step in this equation. So that is, pretty lousy. But my friend, I can no longer justify and no longer hold the torch or hold the candle of Xbox. If you want to, you're more than welcome to. But I'm done. I've supported that company through the original Xbox. I was so excited when I got my Xbox Live set and went online for Halo 2. I've got the 360 early adopter, Red Ring of Death adopter, got the Xbox Elite on top of that. So I bought I think about three Xbox 360s, bought the Xbone, bought the Kinect separately during the Xbox 360 era, and I have an Xbox Series S and X behind me. I have been a great
Mhm.
supporter of the Microsoft Xbox brand, and I'm going back in my neutral status. I once was the video game version of Switzerland and trying to talk about all three sides fairly. But in recent years, I just saw the value of what Xbox was bringing and said it was better than the other what
Mhm.
the other guys are. That's gone. That's out the window. Goodbye. Bye bye. Have a great day. Yeah, because those values are gone from Xbox. Make some sense to this to me, my friend, because it makes absolutely zero sense to me. And one last thing,
Mhm.
where the hell is Phil Spencer in all of this? He used to be so visible, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. So I agree with a lot of what you said. I really do, and I think that when we have conversations about value, when we have conversations about bang for your buck, we have to keep a couple things in mind. That value is going to look different for different people, right? So what's
Well, let me
value?
say this one. Let me interrupt 1 second. The price change, like I said, 19.99 to 29.99, but they are adding about 40 to 45 games, mostly
Hmm.
from the Ubisoft library. I did want
Hmm.
to mention that to people out there. So
Yep.
it's just not all.
Okay.
And also their cloud gaming has improved, which for me is fine because I do play cloud gaming a lot. In fact, I did last night while before my Xbox Game Pass runs out because I've already canceled it. But did play Dragon Age Veilguard on cloud gaming, and it's fine for me. I know that Josh absolutely hates it because it works like junk for him. So if the price tag improves the cloud gaming aspect, so be it as well.
Right. Absolutely. So, all right. So when we talk about conversations, when we talk about conversations about things like value, bang for your buck, how far your dollar stretches, right? It's really going to be uh subjective, and it's going to be subjective to whoever we're talking to. So if you're talking to somebody like yourself, if you're talking to somebody like me who may not be able to enjoy all the benefits of this price hike with Ultimate, then it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. And we'll look at a couple different aspects of it, right? So through this Ultimate package that, yes, it's priced at MSRP 29.99, so a monthly stipend of $30, which comes out to about $360 over the course of 1 year, 12 calendar months. Now, if we're looking at it from a number standpoint, if we break that down, a brand new and in this, right, you're going to get access to the EA Play. So all that comes with EA Play, including their 10-hour demos for their games, for their new titles. You get access to their old titles, so on and so forth. But you're gonna get that. You're gonna get the Ubisoft classic titles, right? So that's all the past Assassin's Creeds, the past, like Beyond Good and Evils, the Far Cry series, things like Borderland, or not Borderlands, excuse me, Ghost Recon, Wild Hunt, things of that nature. You're gonna get access to all of that as well. On top of that, you're going to get access to 75 day one titles. That's 75 day one titles. So let's look at just that on its own. If each title, let's just say we're going to play the game where they're all still going at $60 per title. If you multiply that and you multiply it by 75, 60 by 75, do you know what that number comes out to, Gerald?
No.
$4,500. So if I'm getting 75 day one titles at $60 per title, I'm spending $4,500 on that alone. And if you take that concept and then you're already looking at the Xboxes as saying, okay, well, you're going to get $360 for the year, but you're going to get access to 75 of these titles day one. You're already making your money back and then some. Now, again, you're not going to play every one of those games. Let's just say we cut that down to half. Half of that is going to be what's this? 2250. So that's
Mhm.
22,250 dollars for 30 titles that are day one. You're still coming out ahead. And we're just talking about the day one releases. If they're consistent and if they're doing what they say that they are going to do, and this is a big if, and we'll get to this if in a minute. This is a big if. If they're going to do what they say they're going to do, Xbox is still the best value. Xbox Game Pass is still the best value in gaming. It still is. Now, here's where it gets sticky. where it gets sticky for me and for you, and for for a lot of consumers, is that a lot of those games we don't, one, have the time to play. A lot of those games we don't have the desire to play. A lot of those things that they're adding on, we don't particularly care about. I don't particularly care about Ubisoft Plus titles because, let's be frank, once Ubisoft titles come out, you give them about 2 or 3 months and they're down 50% as is. So most of the Ubisoft classic titles that are on that that page or whatever, I already own like 75% of them and haven't played those as well. So I don't particularly care about getting Ubisoft Plus added to my Xbox Game Pass. I don't particularly care about getting EA Play added to my Game Pass because I don't really play EA titles as is. Sure, I could play Veilguard, but I already own Veilguard and I got that for $20, at that particular time. So it doesn't really affect, it doesn't really give me the onus to say I really want that because I get EA Play with it. I get Ubisoft Plus with it. And for people like that, like me, the 1999 Game Pass tier is still a very, very viable option because you're still going to get some day one releases. You're going to have access to a lot of the some of the software that you already have, which again, if we're being honest, we don't have time to play half of that as is. If we're just keeping it a buck. This is not to this is not to boost Microsoft too much. I want to be very, very clear about that. I want to be subjective. I want to be objective when I'm talking about Microsoft. We'll get to the PR and the optics of it in a second. But I want to be very, very clear. This is still the best deal in gaming. Game Pass is still by far the best deal in gaming. It really is. Does it absolutely suck that it's such a dramatic price hike? Yes. Does it suck that it's such a dramatic price hike at a time where the economy is as rocky and where consumer relations and consumer trust and all this and that are at a level that is never been before, or at a least amount of level, or at the lowest it's ever been? Absolutely, this stuff sucks. All of that sucks. But I have to. I'd be wrong if I were to jump on this bandwagon again. That's not to say you're jumping on the bandwagon, but it's still the best value in gaming. It still is, bar none. It really is. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Microsoft does not have a good track record of releasing titles when they're supposed to release titles. Number one. So for you to make a bold claim, and you being Microsoft, to make a bold claim that says we're going to come out with 75 titles day one, that's a lot of titles for you to tell me that I'm going to have access to over the course of a year. I don't see you releasing 75 titles in a year ever. And now you're going to tell me that you're going to release 75 titles that I'm going to have access to on day one. And I'm supposed to understand that this is going to be priced at that for a year. Are you talking about 75 titles over the lifetime of Game Pass? Are you talking about 75 titles over the course of 12 calendar years? Like, what are we specifically referring to? Are you referring to 75 AAA titles? Are you referring to 75 AA titles? Are you referring to a mixture? Like, they're not very, very specific in their wording, and thus allowing us, the consumer, to have to try to put together what we think makes sense when clear, concise, direct representation or direct information is what we really need at this point to make an informed decision, because there are a lot of people who are really on the fence. There are a lot of people who are upset. There are a lot of people who are canceling, as their website has proven. And as it's also been proven that when we get news that we don't like, we act accordingly. Disney is still feeling the ramifications of the Jimmy Kimmel fallout, and rightfully so, right? So there's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is too, you've had two console price hikes in this calendar year, and now we're looking at another Game Pass hike in this calendar year as well. You're pricing out a lot of your consumers, or you're causing your consumers to really have to scrutinize what they're just willing and what they're not willing to spend top dollar on in regards to your services. And I don't really feel like it should be that way. I feel like we should really make it as accessible to everyone as possible. The flip side is that's why they have a different core or different levels of Xbox Game Pass to say, okay, a lot of this stuff may not work for you. A lot of this stuff may not appeal to you. You may not care for the Ubisoft titles. You may not care for the EA Play. You may not care for the ability to stream some of these a lot of these titles through the cloud or through cloud gaming. You may not care for any of that stuff, and that's okay. There is a tier for you. Granted, it's not the ultimate tier, so you're not getting access to everything, but you're still getting access to quite a bit. Now, again, when you're used to having everything, and all of a sudden you're being told that you can't have everything, or that you can have it, but you got to pay more for it as opposed to getting everything you wanted for the price that you had it at, that absolutely sucks. But if we take a second to not get to feel, because you're going to feel what you're going to feel, take a second to feel it, and then look back at it objectively and say, okay, realistically, how much of these services am I using? Am I really using enough of these services to warrant the $30 price? And if I'm not using it, then you look at what you are using it for. And if the core, if the essential package is better for you, or the one right below the ultimate, I can't think of the name of it at the time, it might end up being a better value for you, and that's okay. You don't have to spend 30. I don't plan on spending $30 for Game Pass, but I'll still spend the 20. I'm okay with the 20. 20 is going to be my limit. So whatever I get with the $20 for Game Pass, that's what I'm going to get from $20 for Game Pass. I don't need all the other bells and whistles that they're offering because I don't use them as is. I don't have time to use them as is. So me, I think what I see is that there's an overall frustration with I'm getting I'm getting the same amount of stuff, but now I have to pay more for it as opposed to, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I completely empathize with that aspect of it. But I think when we look at it from a realistic standpoint, I don't use enough of that stuff to warrant having a $30 price point, anyways. And if you do, then it's still the best value in gaming, hands down. It really is. It's at a terrible time. It's at a terrible point in gaming culture and pop culture and where we are right now in this entire zeitgeist of where we are currently. It's just a terrible timing on all fronts. But it's still it really is still the best value in gaming. So once we get past the initial screw you Xbox, because there's going to be a lot of that, and rightfully so, right? Because again, this is just not the time for it. There's a time for doing certain things, and I really do feel like as somebody that is a consumer, that if you just speak to me and we can talk through, not talk through this, obviously I can't have a dialogue with you, but if you can understand it from a consumer's standpoint, like this is just not, this is just, it's just too much too soon, and that some of this stuff might absolutely be completely justified, but you got to find a better way and a better time to do it, then we can kind of go that route. But unfortunately, Microsoft is kind of like a, well, screw it, we're already in the trenches. Let's just dig ourselves a deeper hole. And that ultimately is where Microsoft's going to fail because they're extremely tone deaf when it comes to their consumers, and they're extremely narrow minded when it comes to this quote unquote value, because again, value is going to be different for different people. But you have to look at your core demographic. You have to look at who's playing your games, how much of the games that you're playing, to really say, okay, does this move really justify it? We can't keep talking about Xbox Game Pass being profitable when you continuously up the price and you continuously upping how much it's going to cost for all of us to have the same stuff that we've been having over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. So um, the message is muddled, the wording is terrible, the PR spin that needs to happen is not there. I don't know. I don't know where Phil Spencer is. I don't know where the president of Xbox is. I don't know where any of these people are right now because right now they're all hiding. They put out these messages. They put out these things that catch fire and then they disappear. But if we at some point in the near future stop and really reevaluate, it's still the best value in that we don't have to be an all or nothing. We don't have to be ultimate or bust. We can say, okay, well, ultimate's not for me at this particular point. If you know that there's a game coming out that you might want to try out, then you might bump it up to $10 for that month and just say, okay, this month I'm gonna do ultimate. Why? Because this game is coming out. I want to be able to play this game for $10 for an additional $10. Try it out. If I don't like it, then I'll bump it back down. Like there's still, you still have total autonomy with how you want to handle your Game Pass subscriptions. And I think that we have to remember that it's not like you have to just buy for the year and then for the year you're locked into the ultimate, or for the year you're locked into the core or the essential. You have the opportunity to bump up, to scale it up and scale it back as needed. Now, granted, that's a little bit more managing, but we're talking, a few more clicks as opposed to us really having to spend $360 over the year versus 240 over the course of the year. So there is a difference and there is a frustration, but I think that we have to be very, 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 we have to take a step back and look at it and say, okay, what am I paying for versus what I'm using? And am I really getting the value out of my? Am I really getting the bang out of my buck? And if I am, then I don't have a problem with that 50% price increase, because ultimately you're still saving a ton of money. But if I'm not getting the value out of it, then yeah, I'm gonna look at restructuring my Game Pass, and maybe I don't need that top tier. Maybe I just go down to a second tier
Or in my case, no tier at all.
or
Just
no tier or at all. Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
I can just say this, and once again, it is the PCC Multiverse. It is the great one, TJ Johnson, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Appreciate you watching and listening. I'll just say this: that I have supported Xbox since the get go, since I saw
Mhm.
their prototype at an E3 many years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just very disappointed in
Yeah.
what they,
Agreed.
that their way they presented these price hikes in the fashion that they did, instead of gradually rolling them out. But it just seemed like we were steamrolled with it, one after another, after another, after another, for a company that is, as far as selling consoles, not even anywhere near anymore than what they once were. And at this earlier this year, you, me, Josh, we're all hyping how good Xbox was, and lamenting people that were not part of this Xbox chain, because they had finally gotten their act together. They had finally
Hmm.
righted the ship and started putting out higher quality games and blowing away Nintendo and Sony with the quality of stuff that they were putting out there. In fact, over the course of this year, when the year ends, guess who will be the biggest third party seller of video games on the PlayStation platform? It will be Xbox.
Yes, it
So
will.
they've haven't, yeah, they're having their cake and eat it too, but they never really righted the ship from the get go in this console generation. They actually lost it at the beginning of the last generation. That's a story for another day. As far as the
Right.
E3, yes, that again, how that fell out. As far as from that E3 when they announced the Xbox One, that again, that was the demise of Xbox right there in a nutshell. It's just been a slow, painful hemorrhaging since then, and in this generation, they've been really falling flat and falling way behind PlayStation, because they just didn't get their act together during the initial days of this generation. Whatever they could have done to try and repair their image to gamers, they just didn't, and they were left just eating the scraps. At this point, though, it's just so hard to support Xbox at this point, because of, just like you said, the tone deaf presentation. I've asked for years for this company to go ahead and promote just how good a value and just how good of options it is. The Xbox Everywhere app, where you can play on. Nobody else does this, as
Yeah.
far as being able to play on other outlets, other ways of playing your video games. Nobody else does this, and they just never really wanted to back it and push it out to a really large gathering of audiences. They just really never wanted to go ahead and put money into it. And the same thing with their consoles, that they were priced more efficiently at the time than the other console makers. And they just never really wanted to push it, never really wanted to push what a great value they were during this generation. And then all of a sudden, they're now just no longer the case, because you've just exploited it for all it's worth. You've just shown how uh, pretentious you are in your raising of your prices on your consoles dramatically, twice, two dramatic price hikes within the span of 4 months, and then obviously bringing the debut of the handhelds here coming out in a couple weeks. You pop the prices at the higher end than from what everybody, even higher than what most analysts had predicted, and then you do this on top of it as far as the ultimate Game Pass is concerned. It's just tone deaf. It's just not
Yes.
reading the
Yeah.
room, and it just makes me so angry that all these years of support that I have given Xbox through all these years, from my very first Xbox to now, you've just spit in my face. And I'm just so tired of you doing it for
Yeah.
the very last time. I wanted to go ahead and support and continue to support Xbox in the future. I wanted to
Mhm.
buy the handheld, but I am not going to pay 1,000 for it, because it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not a value at $1,000. It's not a good investment. It's not something I want to do. The Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, okay, a 50% price hike is still a 50% price hike. No matter how
Yes, it
you
is.
see the value,
Yeah.
it is still higher than the cost of living, higher than the rate of inflation, higher than most things. The tariff on it. How can you put a tariff on a Game Pass subscription? Um, I mean, it can be applied in different ways to rise the cost. I get that, but to calculate it out to 50% and only give the people some minimal things in return for it, because like you said, all those Ubisoft titles have been out for years in many cases, and the Xbox cloud gaming is still based a lot off your internet. It's
Hmm.
just not fair. It's just not right. And it's just so hard for me to tout Xbox anymore as a game console or a gaming platform you should be turning to.
Yeah, no, Gerald, I think what really is it really goes to show you that when a message is given the right way, even when bad news is given, if it's given in the correct way, then you can salvage a relationship. You can salvage a consumee relationship. But when it's given in such a tone deaf manner, which is given in such a laissez faire, whatever happens type matter, it really has the ability to turn people off. And I can completely understand in this particular case how it turns off a lot of consumers, yourself, myself included, because there is a complete tone deafness to it. There's a the bottom line ultimately is this: as gamers, we have come to expect a certain level of um I don't want to say a certain level of class, but like a certain level of just respect when it comes to Microsoft, when it comes to truly believing that they have been the best value in gaming. And as you mentioned, championing their approach and championing their this idea of play everywhere and do it all and play it on every console, this whole manifest destiny of Xbox, if you will. Um, However, when it turns around and it now becomes well, we're doing this, but you as the consumer are going to pay for it. You're the one paying for the fact that we now have Ubisoft Plus titles on Game Pass, that we now have, that we're going to incorporate EA Play into our lineup, the fact that we're going to be able to have streaming services all the way across. Like, you're going to incur all that charge, you're getting all that, when this is something that, honestly, if you look at the writing on the wall, this was predicted. It was predicted years ago when Game Pass was announced that this would be the downfall of gaming. And while you and I, and a lot of others continue to champion what Game Pass is doing, there were still a lot of analysts and a lot of pundits that says this is not good. This is not a successful recipe. This is ultimately going to cost consumers dollars in the long run because it's not sustainable. The reason that it has been sustainable is because they've been very, very slowly, but very, very still raising their prices up. If we look back at the Game Pass, just in 2023, it was priced at 14.99, and then it went from 14.99 to 19.99, and now it's jumped from 19.99 to a whopping 29.99. Just within a 2-year span. So from 2023 to 2025, we went from 14.99 to 29.99. That's a huge jump in such a short amount of time. What we have to also what we have to realize with that is that, yes, the cost of everything has gone up. The cost of living has gone up. The cost of utilities has gone up. The cost of manufacturing has gone up. Everything has gone up for sure. But I can't say that it's gone up at a 10% rate. I can't say it's gone up at a 50% rate, especially because you're talking about a 50% price hike. What I can say is that Game Pass has probably been operating at a loss since it's been put out. I'm almost fairly certain I can say that it's been operating at a loss. And I think it's still going to be operating at a loss. But the problem is you accepted that loss when you started Game Pass. You accepted the cost of doing business. It's no different than Costco selling $1.50 hot dog. Of course, we're selling every hot dog at a loss. But you know what? They've incorporated it into that price and understand that that's a loss leader for Costco, but it's going to get people into the door. No different than Game Pass. Game Pass is going to be a loss leader for Xbox. It's going to get people hooked onto the Xbox ecosystem. It's going to get people hooked into their brand and so on and so forth. But they have to understand the tone deafness in which this is being presented turns off so many people that regardless of what value you are still offering, regardless of how good your value still is, and regardless of how much it ultimately will benefit the player, if and when it does benefit the player, you lost them due to the tone of your message, due to how you delivered it, due to what was said, and due to the timing. You have to be able to read the room. And I can't imagine that anybody in Microsoft's camp looked at this and said, this is the time to do it. This is the time to put this message out. This is the time to give it to the consumer. Because if that's the case, then every one of them should be fired.
All I'll say is this, and I know we got other stuff to talk about, but just disappointed after 20, close to 25 years of being a supporter of Xbox. I'm just tired. I'm just tired, and I've been a champion for Xbox for years now. I just can't do it anymore. I mean, I will report on the news and I'll give my opinions going forward on the Xbox product. I mean, there's of course the release of the Xbox handhelds, and of course what's upcoming maybe for whatever the next generation of Xbox is, even if they do decide to go ahead into that venture, and of course their Xbox games. But yeah, I mean, I may still get a month here or a month there from Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but it's just my heart isn't in it anymore, my friend.
Yeah.
My heart,
Yeah.
it just, my enthusiasm is gone for Xbox, as far as from what it once was to what it is now.
I get it, brother. I 100% understand, and I hope somebody on Microsoft, even if they don't listen to this podcast, listens to the consumer and just tries to find a better way to do this moving forward. I mean, once you've lost the consumer trust, it's very, very, very difficult to get it back. And I think Xbox, if no other company should know that Xbox has to know that once you lose consumer trust, it is damn near impossible to get it back. And if they haven't learned that lesson yet, shame on them, but they're going to come to find out real quick. A lot of these consumers are to the point now where we're tired of playing the games with people, and we're tired of playing the games with these corporations that just want to make whatever unilateral decisions and think that we as a consumer don't have a say so about it. We absolutely do, and we're going to show as much by hitting you where it hurts.
If you have thoughts out there on the Xbox price hike for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, the announcement of the prices for the Xbox handhelds, and where your love or not so much love for Xbox is right now, we'd love to hear your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. All right. I had to get that off my chest. And TJ, again, I just cannot thank you enough for being here, especially the timing of all this stuff. It's really great to go ahead and I told you I would need an Xbox therapist, so I'm glad I could go ahead. Although, man, charging me what, $30 a month? That's really just somehow that seems a little bit higher. That's 50% price increase from what you charged me last month.
You know, but are you still getting the value out of it, Gerald? Are you still
Okay.
getting the value out of this therapy session? That's what
Well,
counts.
I mean, that's because Xbox keeps pissing me off. So yeah, I guess so.
I guess so.
But I guess so. But let's get on to the another interesting video game story. I mentioned it real briefly on Monday, but I didn't go into details because I didn't know all the details. It had just come out on that. It just came through the wire. EA, I mentioned on Monday, 55 around what, 55 billion dollar deal to price themselves, to get themselves out of being a publicly traded entity and go private. Okay, no problem. They think they want to be no longer controlled by or dictated by what the shareholders are doing. Okay, that's fair. It's $55 billion. Okay, that's fine. But EA is doing this with the help of some investment firms, venture capital firms. That's not surprising. That's been taking place for years. And Saudi Arabia's private wealth fund, PIF. So your thoughts on this? I mean, also as well, Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of the President Donald Trump, his affinity partners are also involved. The I think it's the Saudi part that I think gets people because of the fact that obviously they've made a great effort to spend a lot of cash on a lot of sports and entertainment stuff. You know, the sports washing term has been put out there. I don't need to go into the controversial issues and factors in regards to what why that they're doing it or what they're trying to accomplish on that. That is again up to you to determine on that. But again, the same thing with the Riyadh Comedies Festival, with a lot of comedians that are going there, and the controversy that's creating in that world as well. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it in regards to this because EA has never been the most beloved company in the planet. I mean, what didn't it win like the world's worst company to work for several years running, I think. So again, they'll never be high in the food chain on that sense. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on this in regards to how this may put a shadow or a little bit of a warning to the developers that make games for under the EA banner. Your thoughts on what EA's, I guess, $55 billion price tag to go private is all about to you.
Ooh, I don't know. This is gonna be interesting. So first, we need to talk about how much money. Like, there's a lot of dollars that we're dealing with here. It was priced. It was bought at 55 billion dollars.
Still ain't worth Activision though.
No, still ain't worth Activision, but it was valued at 55 billion in an all cash transaction.
Mhm.
What? $55 billion all cash. So each shareholder is going to get approximately $210 per share. So that's about 25% over the unaffected share price in prior to the new deal. So here's where I think this actually could help EA. Just I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I know that I've been devil's advocate this entire show, right? I actually defended Microsoft, and here I am defending this acquisition. But just roll with me for a second. If we look at so many external factors that go into manufacturing games, from being publicly owned and publicly traded, and the matter of public opinion, to now this is privatized. With private ownership, EA now has the ability to act much quicker on games, to act much faster, and to take much more boldness in their games, because there's going to be less pressure from the public market. There's less pressure from people that have an opinion on what EA should do, what they shouldn't do, and then there may be less incentive for them to quote unquote EA it, in regards to when they acquire new places, like when EA acquired BioWare and how they made Mass Effect 3 very EA-ish and made it much more appealable to a mass market. Now games that are under the EA title may actually benefit from being able to have a much more focalized perspective and how they want to be developed, and not have the peer pressure from everybody else to kind of just jump in. EA does still have a very, very strong portfolio. You're looking at Madden, you're looking at The Sims, which is still a top game, which is still a game that's being played today. You're looking at Battlefield. Obviously, Battlefield 6 is about to be released. EA still does have a very, very strong portfolio. They just came out with the recent college footballs game again. I mean, their portfolio is still pretty good, and obviously it's got to be worth enough to be purchased at $55 billion in cash. I keep emphasizing in cash because it was cash. Who in the heck does that? That's crazy. And then they also just acquired a technology called TRACAB Technologies, and that's a company that specializes in optical tracking for sports analytics. So this is going to give them the ability to really kind of push the depths in which they are able to analyze sports for game usage. And hopefully they look at implementing that in their new Madden titles, and hopefully their NCAA titles, and one day their NBA titles, if they ever decide to come back out with it. We'll see. um Now there are still going to be there's still a lot of worry, and I think the biggest worry for me, the biggest worry, is that there's going to be potentially creative constraints or content censorship, especially given Saudi Arabia's involvement. In a time where there are lots of people that feel like our freedom to have free speech is being impacted in a time where there's so much civil unrest and so much discord. Um, it's concerning. It's a little concerning that we now have, because it's so privatized. Now we kind of have the potential to have it being censored, because now, again, with it not really being public, somebody private can really put in there how whatever they want to put in there, and there's nobody that can really stop them because it's now privatized. It's now owned by this company or by this brand, and they can really do with it as they choose to see fit. So I think that it's actually um, very it can absolutely be a very concerning thing. I think that there are positives to this, but I also understand that there are going to be negatives to this, and that's going to come with that. There's going to come with cost cuts, so like layoffs, restructurings, all that stuff is very very high potential, especially when you're under private ownership. This is probably an inevitability. This is probably not a maybe. This is probably not a possibly. This is probably an inevitability, especially again now that you're privatized. You If you don't align with what the owner aligns with, then you're gone. If your work doesn't align with what the owner feels like your work should align with, you're gone. And this is a very real thing that a lot of people are dealing with right now in 2025, in our current climate. So these are all very very serious concerns that ultimately could prove to be the downfall of EA, the downfall of this particular gaming mogul. I think that I think that we are in very interesting times, all the way around. Gaming, pop culture, world, like we are in crazy times right now, and there are going to be a lot of things that happen that we just don't think are going to be good ideas. Ultimately, we're going to just have to kind of see where the chips fall. But this is going to be a very interesting time for gamers. So I don't I see where this can be positive, Gerald. I really do. I see where there's some positive that can comes out of this, but I also see how this can go very, very left very, very quickly. And I think that it's important to be able to speak about both sides of it. I don't know if one's going to really outweigh the other. I know I've talked more about the positive than the negatives, but the negatives to me have a much more significant impact than the positives would. So I think this can really go either way, to be honest with you.
So, with that, though, if you have thoughts on the EA acquisition of itself, basically to go private with the help of several entities, uh, investment firms, venture capitalist firms, and a company based from Saudi Arabia, please go ahead and share your thoughts. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, we've had so much as far as spirited conversation today. I know that you mentioned some other things, the DLC for Witcher 3, your newfound love for 2D games. By the way, the much highly anticipated Terminator 2 game that has been delayed to November. Wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I mentioned
Boo.
that.
Boo.
But I think that it was told, I think that was also due to tariffs. I think that was actually stated in their thing. But again, I'm pretty sure on that. I'm not 100%. But the retro review is still
Yeah.
on tap. So yeah, let me know, my friend, your thoughts. Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is a funny story because yes, new DLC was announced for it, but the Witcher author absolutely cannot stand what the company has done. The video game company has done. 3D Project, CD Project Red has done with the Witcher title. That's a story in and of itself. That should be like a whole segment on how that could be one of the best deals of this century. But I'll
Oh
leave
my
you that.
God.
But the last 6 minutes is yours, my friend. Let me know your thoughts before we head on out.
Oh, 6 minutes. Okay. Well, if we only have 6 minutes, then I think let's save the 2D conversation for the next show. We'll save
Okay.
that. But I do think it's important that we continue our reviews. And for
Okay.
this retro review, I'm going to go all the way back. Picture this: Sicily, 1910. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But we are going to go back to the late 80s. So I grew up I was born in the 80s, born in the middle of the 80s, so I think I'm an older millennial at this point. Born in 84.
By the
Our
way,
game.
belated happy birthday because you just had it not too long ago.
Thank you. Yeah, I had on the 27th, so thank you very
Did
much.
you
I
like my
turned.
post?
I did. It was awesome. Thank you, sir. Uh, turned 41 on the 27th, so thank you.
I
Um,
sent him a Spider-Man Deadpool meme, by the way.
yeah,
So
you
there
did. It was pretty cool. So the game I want to talk about is Tecmo Bowl. And here's why I want to talk about Tecmo Bowl. We were just having a conversation about EA, and obviously EA is known for their Madden franchises, their NHL franchises, their FIFA franchises, but the granddaddy of them all is Tecmo Bowl. And I want to talk. This game was just pure, unadulterated fun. And I'm not talking about photorealistic or endless playbooks. All you needed was Tecmo Bowl, a D-pad, and Bo Jackson. Bo knows Tecmo Bowl. Gameplay was simple. Four players on offense, four players on defense. That's it. But somehow it just didn't get old. Even if you knew that your buddy was about to pick the pass play two, and you still couldn't stop it. 1989 had chunky pixels and high art. Watching the cutscene touchdowns was almost like you were in the Super Bowl. If you remember the first time you got one of those cutscenes and you weren't prepared for it, it was awesome. You were like high fiving everybody because you just didn't expect that to happen. The fun whistle, the iconic crowd noise, the chip tune kickoff, all of that, it just felt good. It would take you back to a time where I had 25-cent juice boxes where I had the little barrel juice. You had to pull the foil top back on and enjoy that 25 cents. That was the day. Remember the candy cigarettes before they got rid of those because they promoted smoking? You remember those candy cigarettes? I used to get those things at the corner store all the time, but whatever. I digress. It was fast. It was arcade style action. It was competitive for two players, as long as neither one of you guys picked Bo Jackson. And there was enough strategy to keep it interesting, but not overwhelming. One of the things that I feel like with the new Madden titles and these new games that it's just so much. It's so many options. It's so many plays. It's so many I formations, pro formations, offside. Like it just it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. Give me four plays. Let me run with it. Um, and seriously, the one thing you just can't do, you just can't pick Bo Jackson unless you want to win everything. Then you pick Bo Jackson. But it wasn't just a football game for me. It was a sleepover legend. It was a rivalry starter. It was a original trash talk creator. And it's outdated for sure now, but it's still timeless. And if Madden is the NFL, then Tecmo Bowl is like backyard football with your friends. It's simple, it's chaotic, but it's always fun. It's always fun. So if I had to give it a stolen touchdown rating, it'd be an 8.5 out of 10 stolen touchdown rating. That's it. That's my retro review for Tecmo Bowl.
I enjoyed Tecmo Bowl. I played it when in its early inception. Had a great time with it, so I cannot blame you a bit. Especially when you got to play with friends, it was an absolute blast, and I definitely agree with you there on that one. But I guess it's my turn next week for the retro review, and since the timing of it will be right on par, I'm going to go with original Tron and Tron Legacy on
Yeah.
next week's show. So,
That's exciting. I can't wait for that one.
absolutely, as we preview Tron Ares, which is coming out, I believe, next week to audiences and theaters out there. So, definitely looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, absolutely, just been great having a chat with you. But yes, the DLC Witcher 3 announced. That was kind of out of left field, wasn't it?
It was definitely out of left field. Nobody's seen that coming. I think this is all preparation for Siri taking over the Witcher, the Witcher 4 series. And the end of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, seeing Gerald and Geralt. I don't know, is it Geralt?
I think it's Geralt. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Seeing Geralt, find Siri, and then Siri and they all, fight off the Wild Hunt. But then ultimately, it seems like Geralt settled down after the final DLC, which is Blood and Wine or something like that. I think they showed him kind of settling down in Tucson. So I don't think we're going to be done with Geralt, but Siri is definitely taking the reins moving forward. And here we are, The Witcher 3 being what? How many years old now?
15.
2015? Yeah, so 10 years old. And it's going to get new DLC. This is by far the best value. If we forget Game Pass, The Witcher 3 has been the best value in gaming by far over the last 10 years. We're still getting DLC for it 10 years later. So it's going to be a fun little bridge between The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 4. So we'll see how it goes. But it's pretty cool that
Well,
they're actually doing this.
Liam Hemsworth hopes that you still enjoy the Witcher series. That's for sure. But Andrzej Sapkowski, the Polish writer known for writing the Witcher series, is not so happy with it. But that is another story I think we need to tell you on another day, because that's going to be very interesting to talk about indeed. So for TJ Johnson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.